And we begin with a Fox News alert. Donald Trump landing in Florida, about to hold a series of events in the state there. Hello, everyone. I'm Shannon Bream. Both candidates pounding the pavement in the southeast after a fiery first debate on Long Island. Hillary Clinton holding a rally at a North Carolina college as Trump gears up to speak in Miami's Little Havana. We have live Fox team coverage. Jennifer Griffin is standing by with the very latest on the Clinton campaign. But we start with senior national correspondent John Roberts live at the scene of last night's debate. John.
Shannon, good afternoon to you. An afternoon in the Sunshine State and an evening as well for Donald Trump, about to start that Hispanic Leaders Roundtable in the Little Havana section of Miami. He has got a fundraiser after that, and he's going up the coast to Melbourne, Florida for a big rally this evening. Trump trying to capitalize on his performance in last night's debate, move the numbers a little bit in Florida, where things are, according to the Real Clear Politics average, just about as even as they could possibly be. The Trump campaign publicly pretty happy with the performance that he put in last night, but privately, some talk that there were some missed opportunities on Trump's part and that he was too quick to take the bait that Hillary Clinton was dangling in front of his nose. Also some complaints that the moderator was tougher on Trump than he was on Hillary Clinton. Here's Trump's running mate Mike Pence from earlier today on Fox.
Never asked a single question about the Clinton Foundation. There was never a single question about the fact that she had a server. It was disappointing to us that not one question about Libya and the tragedy in Benghazi that happened on her watch. 4 Americans fell at a State Department facility.
Governor Pence is next up on the debate schedule, the vice presidential debate next Tuesday in Virginia. He is meeting today with the fellow who is playing Senator Tim Kaine. Governor Scott Walker of Wisconsin will be preparing for the debate along with Governor Pence today. Jen?
Somehow I feel like that debate is going to be a little bit different than the one we saw last night. We'll be tuned in. By the way, though, apparently Trump says he thinks now in retrospect he could have been a little bit harder on Mrs. Clinton.
Yeah, and he said this morning when he was talking to everybody on Fox and Friends that, maybe next time around he'll hit her a bit harder. There was a moment last night, right at the end of the debate, where Donald Trump was really thinking about bringing out the hammer in response to Hillary Clinton bringing up some of the past things that he has said about women. Here's how Donald Trump explained about what he was where he was about to go last night, but decided at the last second to pull back. Listen to this.
When she hit me at the end with the women, I was going to hit her with her husband's women, and I decided I shouldn't do it. I didn't feel comfortable doing it. I think I did the right thing. It's not worth a point. I didn't feel comfortable doing it with Chelsea in the room. I think Chelsea's a fine young lady. I didn't like doing it with Chelsea in the room.
So Donald Trump now saying that the next time they meet in St. Louis, maybe he'll be tougher on her. But, Shannon, that might be a little bit difficult because the format of the next presidential debate is a town hall where questions will be asked by audience members, so you don't get that same dynamic of a moderator and then the two candidates facing off one against the other. That might have to be saved for the third debate when, of course, Chris Wallace will be the moderator. Forgive the noise, too, Shannon. They're tearing the place down around us.
You know what?
But we'll see you tomorrow from
Chicago. Through with remarkable focus. We appreciate that, John. Thanks so much.
I'm just trying to keep up with Trump. That's all.
All right. Hillary Clinton, meanwhile, campaigning in North Carolina, holding a rally in Raleigh. That's a tongue twister. Polls in the battleground state have tightened in recent weeks. Mrs. Clinton is in danger of losing a state that President Obama won in 2008. Jennifer Griffin is traveling with the Clinton campaign. Joins us live from that event in Raleigh. We understand it's kind of loud for Jen as well.
It's very loud here. In fact, Hillary Clinton is just finishing up her speech here to this crowd of young students here at the university. It is notable that she's come to North Carolina. North Carolina getting a lot of attention in this election. We are definitely noticing this morning that her campaign has an extra little jump in their step. They're feeling very good about the debate last night. In fact, the candidate came back and talked to reporters at the back of the plane as soon as she came on the plane, somewhat uncharacteristically. Here's what she said.
Anybody who complains about the microphone is not having a good night.
We've heard that quite a bit in reference to Trump calling into Fox and Friends this morning and saying that his microphone was a little off last night. What we are hearing right now, she's already going on the attack, talking about Donald Trump's taxes and the fact that she basically boxed him in last night to admit that he had not paid taxes. And she just said a moment ago behind me, if he says it's smart not to pay taxes, what does that mean for the rest of us? And that got a lot of cheers from the students here in the audience. It's very clear that Hillary Clinton is making a play for the millennial vote. She has not had a very, according to polls, a very energized millennial base. She'll be going to New Hampshire tomorrow, where she will be campaigning with Bernie Sanders, and she's hitting a lot of the themes that we haven't heard since the primary about $15 minimum wage, about green energy, things that millennials care about. Shannon?
Yeah, and things that really drew them to Bernie Sanders as well. So they'll be tuning up next week. All right, her campaign seems to be very confident today after last night's performance.
In fact, as she walked up the stairs to her plane, and we flew on the plane with her today, as she walked up the stairs, the pool reporter shouted out, do you think Donald Trump will show up for the next debates, the next two debates? And she put her arms up in the air as if to say she doesn't know. And in fact, that is a theme we're hearing from her campaign aides, that they don't know if he's actually going to show up for the next two debates. They also felt that his body language last night showed that he had become a little bit unhinged, and that was according to her campaign. Back to you, Shannon.
All right, Jennifer Griffin live with the campaign in Raleigh. Thank you. And a Fox News alert now in Miami, Florida, where Donald Trump is holding a roundtable event in the city's Little Havana neighborhood. That is home to a big Hispanic population. That's a group he struggled with in the polls, but he's talking about how well he's doing in post-debate snap polls. Let's take a listen in to the conversation he's having there in that all-important swing state of Florida.
Our concerns and to hear the issues that are important to us. So we have a few guest speakers today, Mr. Trump, that are going to discuss some of the issues facing our community, the importance of them. Our first one is Roberto Gonzalez. Roberto?
Mr. Soon-to-be President.
How are you?
I'm doing fine, sir. It's an honor to be in front of you today. In 1776, a group of great men, they made a decision. And that decision was to break away from a government that was oppressing them, their freedom, their opportunity. And in doing so, they created what is now the greatest country in the world, the United States of America, which I know you're going to make greater. Now, just like those men, in 1989, my parents made a very similar decision. See, they came to this country, and what they found was something like they could never imagine, because they come from Guatemala. Now, for those that don't know, Guatemala at that time was a horrible place to be. Why? Because they had corrupt politicians, criminal politicians that actually committed crimes, but they didn't get indicted. They got reelected. And you know what happens when you elect criminals? It corrodes the system from within. And the people that are affected are the people in the middle and the people in the bottom, like my parents. So they fled. And they came to this country with $100, a 2-year-old baby, and hard work. They worked hard, and they instilled that hard work mentality in me. And it's because of the opportunities that I had in this country that I got to where I am today. You see, Mr. Soon-to-be President, Mr. Soon-to-be President, I am an American. I am just as American as George Washington. I am just as American as Benjamin Franklin. I am just as American as John Adams. Because I love this country. And I love the principles that have built this country. See, I'm the first from my family to go to college because of the beautiful things that this country has granted to me. And then I went to law school with, a little convincement from my mentor, Nelson Diaz. And I graduated law school. I got out and I got a great job. But I wanted the pursuit of happiness. So I left that great job. and somewhat like you, not to your extent, but I started my own business. I started my own law firm with my partner, Juan Perez. And just 4 months in, we moved to a bigger office. That would not be possible in any other country in the world, because this is...
You've been listening in Miami. We were hoping to hear from Donald Trump. We may go back to that once he starts speaking a little bit, but getting a very friendly question there from somebody who is referring to him as the next president of the United States. It's an important state for him there in the Sunshine State, and we'll keep tabs on what's going on there. For more on the debate last night and where we go from here, Simon Rosenberg, president and founder of New Democrat Network, a progressive think tank, and he is also former Bill Clinton campaign advisor. And Larry O'Connor, host of Mornings on the Mall on WMAL in Washington and editor-at-large for HotAir.com. Gentlemen, great to have you both.
Good to be here.
Great to be here. Thanks, Shannon.
All right, let's talk about first. I want to play a soundbite where Trump got some applause, even though the audience was told repeatedly, don't applaud, don't react, we don't want to hear that. But he offered a deal to Mrs. Clinton. Let's listen to that.
I will release my tax returns against my lawyer's wishes when she releases her 33,000 emails that have been deleted. As soon as she releases them, I will release my tax returns, and that's against my lawyers. They say don't do it.
Larry, that was one of the only times he brought up her emails last night. We didn't hear about Benghazi, the Clinton Foundation. You know, he got a good reaction for that, but a missed opportunity not to be talking about that particular topic more.
Yeah, thank God he brought it up at all. Otherwise, Lester Holt would have pretended that, you know, it was 8 years ago or something. It was ridiculous. And it was a good point. And by the way, it's very important to realize that he was pivoting on a question about his tax returns. Another example of spending a lot of time last night on topics that really don't matter to the American people. I don't care about Donald Trump's tax returns. I care about the tax return of everyday Americans that's going to go up if Hillary Clinton becomes president. So I think he did okay there. That was in the first third of the debate where he was strongest. I wish he had pivoted some of those ridiculous nonsense questions that Lester Holt was throwing at him into more relevant issues later in the debate. You're right, missed opportunities.
All right, we're going to talk more in another segment coming up about Lester Holt and whether there was some media bias there or not. But Simon, I want to bring you in on this. And sure. Listen, when she talks about his tax returns, that resonates with a lot of people.
Yeah, look, Democrats feel good today. I mean, Hillary did a good job last night. She was substantive. She was comfortable. She even laughed a few times, which is not something you always see Hillary Clinton do. So I think that we feel it was a good performance for her last night. And on the tax issue, I was a little surprised how Donald Trump handled it, because he said, my lawyers have told me not to release my tax returns, when we know that there's no prohibition for somebody who's under audit to release their tax returns. And it sounded like what he was saying is that he's got something to hide and that he's gotten in trouble through his taxes. I thought that was actually a huge mistake in the debate last night. And I think, look, he's still a new candidate. I think he was a little bit of a rookie last night. Let's see how it goes in the next two debates.
All right, we'll all be tuned in. Gentlemen, thank you very much for checking in today.
Sure.
All right, lots of
Thanks.
talk about money in last night's debate. Who laid out the better plan for cutting taxes, keeping jobs here in the U.S.? We're going to break it down with Charles Payne coming up.
I call it trumped up. Trickle down, because that's exactly what it would be. That is not how we grow the economy.
Jobs, the economy, and your tax dollars were major topics of conversation in last night's debate. Clinton slamming Trump for not releasing his tax returns and asking, what's he hiding?
Maybe he doesn't want the American people, all of you watching tonight, to know that he's paid nothing in federal taxes, because the only years that anybody's ever seen were a couple of years when he had to turn them over to state authorities when he was trying to get a casino license, and they showed he didn't pay any federal income tax. So if he's paid zero, that means zero for troops, zero for vets, zero for schools or health.
Well, when you put it that way, it doesn't sound too good. Charles Payne is the host of Making Monies with Charles Payne. All right, so some people will say, listen, he's using legal structures and framework, and maybe it's an argument for overhauling the tax code anyway. How much does it hurt him when he talks about, or brags about not paying those federal taxes?
Well, when you talk, if the number is zero, then I think that might hurt him with some people out there. Let's not forget the last two elections were essentially decided on politics of envy. Now, listen, I have an accountant. I try to get the lowest rate possible reasonable. I believe we should pay. I don't think it should be 50% of what we make net, and I don't think it should, there's something reasonable that we get goods and services, particularly services from the public sector. So, by the same token, what I do find interesting, though, and if you think about this, she laid out an estate tax in the past week, and the estate tax goes up to 65% on estates of $500 million or more. Well, essentially what she's pushing toward is that people with that kind of money have the wherewithal not to ever have to pay that kind of money. It's the lower folks, the small business that's just grinding it out, just starting to make it. It's the person the first one who may have gone to college in their family, now they're just making some cash and they're just starting to put it together. It's those folks who are sawed off at the knees. They just got out of the starting gate and all of a sudden they've got to give half their money to Uncle Sam after paying taxes throughout their lives. So in an interesting way, she indicted her own estate tax policy. By the same token, I think zero will offend a few people in this country, particularly middle-class folks who make $60,000 and paid a lot in taxes last year.
Yeah, they did. All right. So they also talked about race at one point in the ongoing tensions in our country. And Trump used that to pivot to a topic that's been good for him, that he's talked about a lot, which is law and order. Here's a bit of what he said.
Well, first of all, Secretary Clinton doesn't want to use a couple of words, and that's law and order. And we need law and order. If we don't have it, we're not going to have a country. We have a situation where we have our inner cities, African Americans, Hispanics, are living in hell because it's so dangerous. You walk down the street, you get shot.
This is a topic that has really done well for him. I mean, obviously, he's not doing well with minority voters, potential voters. But how do you think that this argument, does it connect with them? Does it connect with middle America, people who are worried about safety in their neighborhoods and their kids?
Well, it's different. I think middle America, suburbs, this plays well. I think if you're talking about blacks and Hispanics, the idea of creating a police state within those neighborhoods does not work well. When you strip someone of their dignity, my son is 19, so if you tell me every time he walks out the house, he's a suspect first and a human being second, or an American second, I'm going to push back on that. When you talk about race relations, we should be talking about opportunities for everyone. First of all, it's education. We are in the knowledge century. It's already begun. All Americans, we need to be focused on this. We are so far behind the Chinese and others, it is absolutely a shame.
Our rankings are horrible.
Our rankings are horrible. And then we talk about real life stuff, the anxieties that we have with each other, the fact that we don't know each other. I come to this building every day. I spend about 10 to 12 hours a day. And conservative, mostly it's conservative, mostly it's white folks. And then I may go to my niece's birthday party in the Bronx on Saturday. The difference in our country on how little we know about each other and how little, I wouldn't say the word is empathy, but the inability to connect and understand that the top 10 things you want for your life are the same thing, top 10 things that I want for mine. And we could find a way to put those together, I think we'll be in better shape. But we should also applaud how far we've come in such a short period of time as a country.
Always that walking in someone else's shoes a mile or two.
It's tough. It's tough.
It is, but if we could make more of an effort to do that and understand each other, we'd all benefit
Absolutely.
from that. And we always benefit from having you here
Thanks
today.
a lot.
Charles, great to see you.
All right, you too.
All right, who do you think won last night's debate? We've got some numbers that give us clues about where voters were going, what they were thinking. Trace Gallagher is going to break down all of that for us. Plus this.
Your facts are wrong about what his father told the FBI. We are not perfect people. We aspire to be perfect because we think that's what the American people have a right to expect. But you will find us being very candid about our shortcomings and our strengths.
The FBI director testifying today about the New York City bombings, talking on Capitol Hill, what he had to say about that and where we are with protecting America from terror attacks here in the homeland. So, who won last night's presidential debate? Both sides claiming the big W today. So, we want to break down some of the numbers from one of the most unusual political showdowns in U.S. history. Trace Gallagher is looking into all of it for us. Hey, Trace.
Hey, Shen, you know, when it comes to who won or lost the debate, opinions are clearly subjective, but it's fascinating to look at the social media trends because it kind of gives you a real-time barometer of how viewers responded. For example, the Twitter conversation around the candidates during the debate was dominated by Donald Trump. He had 62% of the conversation compared to Hillary Clinton's 38%. The top three tweeted moments were, number one, Trump says he has good temperament. Number two, Trump comments on stop and frisk, and three, the Trump-Clinton exchange over their plan for defeating ISIS. But while Trump was tops on Twitter, when it comes to Google searches during the debate, Hillary led the way. 54% for her of percent of search interest compared to Trump's 40%. Now, the top Googled question for Clinton was, is stop and frisk unconstitutional? And for Trump, it was whether he supported the Iraq War. During the first part of the debate, Trump did get some heat for interrupting Hillary. Watch.
For 30 years you've been doing it, and now you're just starting to think of solutions.
Well, actually,
I will bring back jobs. You can't bring back jobs.
Well, actually, I have thought about this quite a bit.
Yeah, for 30 years.
Okay, Shannon, here it is, your pop quiz time. How many times do you think in the first 26 minutes of last night's debate that Donald Trump interrupted Hillary Clinton? 17 times, 19 times, or 25 times?
You know what? I think that he was a little bit more controlled in the beginning, so we'll go with the lowest number, 17.
Incorrect. 25 times Donald Trump interrupted Hillary Clinton. But to get one more chance, Shannon, which country got the most mentions last night? I know you didn't study. This was kind of tossed on her in the last minute. Which country got the most mentions, China or Mexico?
China.
China got the most mentions at 11. Mexico got 6. Finally, you may or may not know this, but porn is the most Googled subject on the internet all the time. Shannon, did porn get beat last night by the debate?
You know what? I hate to say this, but I don't think so. No. I do think that porn probably it did. I have faith in America.
Porn got beat. Porn got beat by the debate. So this is all good. So really, I mean, you talk about a strong showing last night.
Listen, we need to be more educated about what's going on here. So any time that maybe civics and cultural and educational things are being Googled over porn, I'll take it.
Right. Good stuff. Nice job, by the way, Shannon.
Thank you. Listen, 2 out of 3, 1 out of 3. Yeah. All right, we'll try again next time. Thank you, Trace. All right, numerous states requesting help from Homeland Security in securing voter systems from cyber hacks ahead of the November election. But a lot of people are concerned about the Fed stepping in. We're going to tell you more about that, plus debate moderator Lester Holt coming under fire. What Donald Trump is accusing the NBC anchor of doing next. But first, here's Hillary Clinton and Trump.
I have a feeling that by the end of this evening, I'm going to be blamed for everything that's ever happened.
Why not?
Why not? Yeah, why not?
Time for a quick check of the headlines. A massive wildfire in California, and a mountain range there is threatening hundreds of homes near the city of San Jose. That is only 5% contained. The opposite problem in Iowa, where heavy rainfall and flooding is putting the Cedar River on track to rise to near record highs. While the water levels go up, U.S. food prices are falling for the 9th straight month. That is the longest streak since 1960, outside of the 2009 financial crisis. Donald Trump accusing last night's debate moderator Lester Holt of bias, telling Fox that he felt Holt leaned to the left. Trump saying Holt asked some very, quote, unfair questions. Here are a few of the questions asked by Lester Holt.
Back to the question, though, how do you specifically bring back jobs? American manufacturers, how do you make them bring the jobs back? The IRS says an audit of your taxes, you're perfectly free to release your taxes during an audit. The birth certificate was produced in 2011. You continued to tell the story and question the president's legitimacy in 2012, 13, 14, 15, as recently as January. So the question is, what changed your mind?
Well, nobody was pressing it.
Ben Domenech is publisher of The Federalist. All right, Ben, what is your take? Because a lot of times it's really hard to objectively measure how this works. But, I mean, a lot more follow-up questions, it seemed like, for Trump, and a lot more controversial topics. We didn't hear questions about Clinton Foundation, Benghazi, those kinds of things from Mrs. Clinton.
First, I have to say I think Lester Holt, in general, did a good job as a moderator of the debate last night. But I have to say that I do think that there's a point to those who are saying he went after Donald Trump with much tougher questions than the ones that he put to Hillary Clinton. I mean, the fact is we didn't see Hillary have to answer any questions about her policy as it relates to Libya, to Iraq, to Syria, the Russian reset, the Clinton Global Foundation, the deception related to her health, and, of course, her handling of classified information. None of those were things that Lester Holt brought up to her. In fact, the only question he asked her that was at all tough about her emails was simply, Madam Secretary, Mr. Trump has brought up this subject. What's your response? I think that the real issue there, though, is one where we have to say it's up to Donald Trump in that instance to bring up those subjects. If the moderator isn't going to do it, then the other candidate needs to be there and be ready to make those issues at the center of the debate.
Yeah, I mean, that's their responsibility if they're going to get into the ring here. There was so much public chatter about Lester Holt, about, the campaigns pushing on him, saying he better fact-check Trump. There was a lot of outside pressure on you better give it to Trump, that kind of thing. Do you think that even subconsciously that factors into the preparations at all for those who are part of the mainstream media?
Absolutely, I think it factors in. I think it was very clear that in the wake of the experience that Matt Lauer had with Donald Trump, that they were not going to allow him to continue to talk about the Iraq war position without really drilling down on this subject. The problem that I really had, though, is that the fact-checking really seemed to only go in one direction. At the very beginning of the debate, Hillary Clinton said that the reason that we had a financial crisis was because of tax cuts for the wealthy, which is something that no reasonable person actually believes. That's not where the financial crisis came from. But Lester Holt wasn't there pushing back against her, saying, do you really believe that it's because we cut taxes on the wealthy that we had a financial crisis? The problem with the fact-checking approach is that it only pushes in one direction.
Okay, so there are obviously endless analysis. We'll have some polls probably by the end of the week that'll tell us or give us some indication of how this debate did or didn't impact how voters are feeling out there. But in the meantime, are there lessons that the candidates can take away from this? Missed opportunities, ways to do things differently, watch them back and see even how their expressions looked?
Absolutely. I think that when you're analyzing who wins and loses debates, in this case I would say that this is a debate Trump lost more than Hillary won. Hillary played this debate very safe. She was very careful in her approach, and she often was going through kind of a boring litany of policy proposals. I think on Trump's part, there were numerous opportunities that he could have taken to really slam Secretary Clinton on a number of different points. I think particularly on the cybersecurity question, where he could have gone after her for a number of the decisions that she's made as it regards secure information over the course of her career. And I think the real lesson that he ought to take from it is the one that he seems to be already taking from it today, which is that he ought to be more aggressive and that he ought to hit her harder in the future. He still has 2 more cracks at her, and we'll see if he takes that lesson.
We shall. Ben Domenech, great to see you always. Thanks for joining us.
Great to be with you.
All right, Donald Trump giving Hillary Clinton a C+ for last night's performance, saying she wasn't the toughest person he's actually faced in a debate.
I think Ted Cruz was tough. I think that Marco was actually very tough. He had a little breakdown once with somebody, but he was a good debater. Yeah. Marco's a very good debader. I thought those two were very tough. And she'll be tough. I think she'll be tough. I thought she was very bad in the first half.
Ted Cruz, a fierce critic during the primaries, returning the love. Posting online, Trump had his strongest debate performance of the election cycle. If Clinton's elected, we know that a liberal justice will be named to fill Scalia's seat, and we will lose the Supreme Court for a generation. With that, we know for a certainty that our right to keep and bear arms, our religious liberty, and federalism are in danger. 3 of the nation's top national security officials in the hot seat today on Capitol Hill. Their testimony before lawmakers on the Senate Homeland Security Committee comes just over a week after attacks in New York, New Jersey, and Minnesota. Kristen Fisher is live in Washington. All right, Kristen, did the FBI director acknowledge any mistakes in the agency's investigation into the man who's accused of planning those bombs in New York and New Jersey?
Well, Shannon, this is one of the key questions at today's hearing because, remember, prior to these bombings, Rahami had already been on the FBI's radar. His father had even reportedly warned them that he thought his son was a terrorist. Well, today, FBI Director James Comey argued that the agency had not made a mistake, though he did say the FBI would see if anything could have been done differently. He also said Rahami's case is exactly the kind of case that worries him the most, an American who becomes self-radicalized and then carries out an attack in their own country. The other threat the FBI director discussed at length is ISIS abroad, and specifically what happens when ISIS loses even more of their territory. Listen to this.
The so-called caliphate will be crushed. The challenge will be, through the fingers of that crush are going to come hundreds of very, very dangerous people. They will not all die on the battlefield in Syria and Iraq. There will be a terrorist diaspora sometime in the next 2 to 5 years like we've never seen before.
And that, of course, only feeds into the fear that some of those terrorists could perhaps disguise themselves as refugees and then ultimately make their way right here to the United States. Shannon.
All right, Kristen, what about this? We're hearing more about the threats of election-related hacks. Did that come up today at all at the hearing?
It did. In fact, the Secretary of Homeland Security, Jay Johnson, told the committee that 18 states have asked his agency for help in securing their voting systems from cyber hacks before the election. Now, remember, last month the FBI announced that voter databases in 2 states had already been breached. Well, today Secretary Johnson said that there have been efforts to hack into several state election agencies. Some have been successful, some have not. But as for what country or who might be behind it, Secretary Johnson wouldn't speculate. But some scary stuff ahead of the election. Shannon?
Yeah, and it's interesting. I was reading something about 2 college professors who say they've actually been able to do it right here in the U.S. So right. The possibilities are there. All right, Kristen Fisher, great to see you from Washington.
Thank you.
Now, in all fairness to Secretary Clinton, yes, is that okay? Good. I want you to be very happy. It's very important to me.
Hey, Shepard Smith on the Fox News deck. Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump trying to rally support in big, important swing states after last night's presidential debate. The analysts say the candidates are battling over white, educated voters in the suburbs during these last few weeks of the campaign. So did last night's showdown help either of them? Really? We'll speak about that with the U.S. editor for the Wall Street Journal newspaper and others. Top of the hour on Shepard Smith Reporting. We'll see you then.
All right, in the meantime, we want to take you back to South Florida, down in Miami. Little Havana is the neighborhood there. You'll see Donald Trump visiting with folks. He's at the Versailles restaurant down there, one of the most famous, well-known Cuban restaurants down there. It looks like, they're taking pictures. He's there, I believe Rudy Giuliani is with him. AJ Delgado's with him as well. A couple advisors. A lot of people wanting to take selfies and take pictures with him. Maybe he'll grab a little cafe con leche, ropa viejo. Some of the delicious things. I used to live down there. There's a lot of great food and great people, and it looks like he's trying to maximize his time with both of them. Of course, he's had a tough time with minorities. He was just at a round table where they talked about some of the specific issues that Latinos are facing in this country. There were some who were praising him, others who had tough questions for him. But that's going to be a key part of the voting balance down there in Florida, a swing state where that race has certainly tightened up in recent weeks. It is a huge electoral prize. Oh, see, he's having a little sip there. He's going to get caffeinated, I'm telling you. He might turn into Energizer Bunny after a sip of that stuff. It's great, and it will power through him through undoubtedly another afternoon of campaigning. So we'll keep an eye on that, and if he has anything to say, we'll let you know. All right, you've heard what the political analysts had to say about last night's debate, but what about voters? What do you guys think? All right, we hit the streets to find out. Fox Business Network's Jeff Flock is a man on a mission. He joins us live from Chicago to let us know how the people are reacting in the heartland. Hey, Jeff.
In our own restaurant, not just Donald Trump having lunch, I guess, today, Shannon. We're in the White Palace Grill, famed Chicago eatery, and sampling reaction after the debate. I'll tell you, the overarching theme, I think, that I've seen in talking to a lot of people is that both sides are kind of disappointed in the performance of their candidates. Listen to what one voter told us.
I think Clinton shouldn't have come out so aggressive in attacking Trump. She should have probably stayed with her points a little more. I don't think she didn't look good that way.
Trump has changed his demeanor, and it looked to me like it worked to his advantage last night, where I'm more of a Clinton supporter, but I did not like what I saw last night.
She didn't do a great job, but I couldn't vote for Trump.
The Trump supporters were also a little disappointed in their guy. They thought, Shannon, that maybe he missed a number of opportunities where he could have done better in rebuttal. Both sides disappointed.
All right, Jeff, so Hillary Clinton's camp has been very confident today. She has as well, sort of did a mic drop moment on the plane talking about last night. All right, is it because voters like the last one that you showed perhaps not swayed?
Yeah, I think that was the thing. You know, the voters that support Donald Trump are still in his corner this morning or this afternoon. The ones that are for Hillary Clinton still in her corner. Those ones that were on the fence, though, I have a sense were not swayed, and nobody in another camp switched over. Listen to one more.
I think at the end of the day, Hillary Clinton won the debate overall because she got to Donald Trump in terms of unnerving him, making him uneasy. She really got to him, in my opinion.
So we'll see if that theme continues in debate number 2. But for now, this one's in the books, and people are, well, they're still thinking.
What's for lunch, by the way, Jeff? Are you going to have time?
We had breakfast, we had lunch. If they stay open, we'll have dinner. That's Pete right there. He runs the place. Very kind guy and a good cook.
Yeah, and it's always great when you have a TV crew moving for the day. You need a place to hang out and interview people. You can just eat all your meals, just hang out. Maybe it's a 24-hour diner. Maybe we'll see you there tomorrow.
I'm fine with that. Fine with that. Yeah.
Jeff, thank you for taking us to the people. All right, both President Obama and House Speaker Paul Ryan weighing in on the debate. Mr. Obama today joined Ryan Seacrest on his radio show and had high praise for Hillary Clinton.
Anybody who was watching the debate, I think, got a sense that you've got really sharply contrasting visions about where we should take the country. And, I'm admittedly biased. I have worked with Hillary. I know her. She is well prepared.
Speaker Ryan, on the other hand, stopped short of praising his party's nominee, Donald Trump, instead of giving a more measured assessment.
I think people met their expectations. And I think Hillary gave a very polished, well-rehearsed, status quo defense. And I think Donald Trump gave a unique Donald Trump response to the status quo. I think he gave a spirited argument, and I think he passed a number of thresholds which showed that for, what was it, 90 minutes? For 90 minutes, he could go toe-to-toe with Hillary Clinton.
Speaker Ryan refused to comment on any remarks Mr. Trump made this morning on Fox and Friends, saying he didn't see it. I bet he normally does, though. A man who spent a week lost at sea is back on dry land, but they're still looking for another person who was on the boat. We will have the very latest on that story. A Vermont man who spent a week lost at sea is back on dry land. 22-year-old Nathan Carmen was rescued from a life raft by a passing freighter. He and his mother set off on a fishing trip 9 days ago, and their boat sank. Carmen's now answering questions with the Boston Coast Guard. His mother has not been found, and for now is presumed dead. We're learning new information about a man accused of carrying out a shooting spree in Houston that injured 9 people yesterday. Law enforcement sources say the suspect was wearing a Nazi uniform when he was killed during a confrontation with police. More Nazi paraphernalia was reportedly found in his home. 3 of the 9 victims in the shooting have been released from the hospital. 1 is still in critical condition. Protesters in Charlotte, North Carolina, demanding the mayor and the police chief resign over the shooting death of Keith Lamont Scott. More than 100 protesters jammed into the city council chambers to vent their frustrations with police. Both the mayor and police chief have faced criticism for how they handled the aftermath of the shooting. Police say Scott was armed when he was shot. His family is disputing that claim. A deadly explosion claimed the life of a New York City firefighter while he was searching a home for a possible gas leak. The 2-story house was evacuated along with surrounding homes when the blast shook that whole neighborhood, injuring 6 people. Police say the home was under investigation as a possible drug factory. Fire Battalion Chief Michael Fahey, a 17-year veteran, was killed by debris from the blast. He was the father of 3 children. Folks on the streets of Los Angeles sounding off about last night's debate. Jimmy Kimmel's team asking them questions, but before the matchup even happened, we're going to show you some of the best responses. But first, here's a little bit more from Trump and Clinton.
For 30 years you've been doing it, and now you're just starting to think of solutions.
Well, actually,
I will bring back jobs. You can't bring back jobs.
Well, actually, I have thought about this quite a bit.
Yeah, for 30 years.
think it gets closer. I mean, I don't know if that's possible because much of the polls say that it's already a neck-and-neck race. I don't think that Hillary Clinton did herself a lot of favors tonight. I don't think Donald Trump did a particularly great job either.
Okay, so that was someone who actually saw the debate. But Jimmy Kimmel took to the streets to ask folks what they thought of the debate. The catch, the questions were asked before the debate ever happened, but of course that did not stop some people from giving some pretty interesting answers.
Were you surprised when Donald Trump screamed at Hillary Clinton, liar, liar, pantsuit on fire?
Wasn't that expected, though? I saw it on social media.
Was it cute, though, when right after the closing statements, they gave each other that cute little kiss, that little peck on the lips?
Barely. It was, like, it showed that there's, like, peace between the two parties, but it kind of was fake.
Yeah, kind of like the entire debate.
Right.
Which didn't happen.
Right.
I love how committed people are to these answers. Again, those were all given before the debate ever began. Okay, so here's what America is clicking on today. NASA scientists say they've spotted what may be plumes of water vapor on Jupiter's moon, Europa. I hope I'm saying that right. And new study finds taking a spin on a medium-intensity roller coaster may help people with kidney stones. I'm not sure how, but okay. I'm Shannon Bream. Thanks for joining us today. Now it's time for Shep.